Welcome to the Thrive Today podcast. I'm Natalie Born, the media host for Thrive Today and the founder of Innovation Meets Leadership. Look, we are a platform for women who lead and believe, and this lady is no stranger to our platform. We have Jacquel Tucker back, and she is an amazing part of our platform. You see her on our Monday morning stretch videos, you see her helping to train in our coaching programs, and she is also the owner and leader of J. Tucker Group and many, many other things that she does. So I'm so excited to have her back with us. And we are going to talk about a really important thing as we enter the end of the year, which is meeting and exceeding our goals. So welcome to the podcast, Jacquel.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for having me here. I am truly excited to just share with these amazing ladies in the Thrive community what God has laid on my heart. Thank you.
Yes. Well, you wrote an article on, basically, and I'm going to quote you where you said, how we finish where we are currently determines how we will start our next season. So this is the perfect time for this conversation as we are in the November and then we'll be in the December timeframe before we even know it. And a lot of us are thinking about, have we finished well? Let's talk about what that means and why it's so important for leaders to connect the dots there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of times when we talk about finishing well, people automatically go to, well, the end goal must be achieved to finish well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. Finishing well means that you know within your heart and you have peace and clarity that both you and if you're working with a team, that you have given it your very best effort and you have worked unto the Lord, as it says in Colossians 3, verse 23, whatever you do it heartily as if for the Lord. And so it means that you have done your utmost best. You're finished with integrity. There are milestones that you've accomplished that even though the end goal is not fully met, but these milestones will now give you momentum to step forward into your next season, knowing that you have the right strategies in place and you're very clear, and your team, you're very clear about where you're going, and you can see the end goal getting accomplished in due time.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because I find that with the leaders I work with, a lot of people do a great job starting the year, right? They do their planning sessions, they've got their milestones, they kind of kick off out of the gate very strong. But we find that there's this huge gap between how we start the year and maybe how we end it. Maybe we start it with a bang and then we end with this little soft, fade away sound. And so how can leaders think about this if they're facing, as we always do, all types of pressures, all types of obstacles, and even doubt that could get in our way? How do we think about, again, with just a couple months left in the year,
Mhm.
refiring ourselves, regaining that momentum to continue forward and finish the year strong?
Yeah, and I love that you shared about the start of the year because doesn't this happen every year? It's like clockwork, right? January comes, everyone's out the gate, whether in our personal or professional lives, and we have all the journals, we do the vision board, put everything up, but along the way, we kind of run out of steam because, of course, setbacks are gonna happen, challenges are gonna be there. And so, in our personal lives, as they say, life is lifing. And so this is what the world is made up of. But again, when we set these goals and we're given the big vision and it's from God, and whether it's in our business or personal lives, we're not meant to accomplish it all in our own strength. We need to rely on God. We need to rely on a team of people around us to get it done. And as humans, we only carry so much endurance for the race ahead. And so, what we have to realize when we start getting overwhelmed, it means that we need to take a step back. We need to take a break. And I know it's contrary to what society says because it's like, well, we're running out of time, right? Let's double down and get all the things done. But what we need to do is just realize how God works and how he speaks to us, because that is the opportune time to step back, take a deep breath, reconnect with God and with the vision, and to see, hey, what has been working so far and what is not. And then to look at, what are one or two things that, hey, if we get these done, it will really set us in a good position to step into our next season. So just remove all the distractions, There's just so much that's coming at us, even as leaders, that we feel we have to handle it all. We have to give it all this attention. But sometimes we have to step back, go back to the big vision, go back to the end goal of what's truly important, and then look at all the things on the list, all the strategies, and just say, hey, which one of these are going to put us closer? And just break the overwhelm pattern, put us closer to the end goal that we're trying to achieve.
Well, I like it because we're kind of refocusing. We're
Mhm.
re-engaging our brain to say, we've accomplished some things. Let's take note of that. There's also some things that we have yet to accomplish. Well, maybe those need to fold into next year, but we need to acknowledge the fact that we didn't get through all the things we thought we were going to get through. And then how do we plan those into next year? And one of the biggest things I think that happens at the beginning of the year is that we do this big splash. We tell everyone, right? Whether it's our team or the board or even Instagram followers, I'm going to go do this thing. And then end of the year comes and we haven't done the thing. We haven't updated anyone on it. And really, you know, that kinda creates this maybe shame
Yeah.
in us of like, "Oh, I didn't do those things I said I was going to do." So, one of the things and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, that I've implemented with teens, whether they're a solopreneur or a team of, 400 people, is, quarterly business reviews. So, have somebody hold you accountable and put them on your calendar quarterly so that they can be asking you a question quarterly about, "Well, how's that going?" If you're adjusting the sales, right, because of the wind, why are you adjusting the sales? What is that gonna look like now for a new date? When is that going to happen? And then that way we don't get to the end of the year and surprise everyone else and ourselves because we didn't accomplish what we were gonna do. So much of what you're talking about here, accountability becomes critical to ensuring our own
Mhm.
success.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, um, Back at when I was a former director of sales and marketing and hospitality, we used football, and you could use that analogy in a lot of businesses nowadays, where we know the touchdowns or everything, all the big goals that we want to accomplish, and yet we also know the game is played in inches, and so every inch you play, sometimes the whistle gets blown, and it's like, let's stop. Where are we at?
Yeah.
Which is perfect what you said about looking at a quarterly review. And for some people, as you get closer to the end of the year, that needs to be weekly and sometimes even daily. And so you go back, you visualize the goal, and you say, this is what we said was going to be done, or this is what I said was going to be done for myself, but it's not. But with the time left, like you said, it's looking at what's already accomplished. What's already accomplished that can now we can now build on and gain momentum on. You may not have accomplished the big thing, but you have accomplished some things. And so I like to get out the flip chart or the whiteboard and make it visual. Okay, so now we're going to put up, here are a couple of things that need to be done, and what is the reward for getting these things done. And so it's not that you're creating brand new goals, but you're creating smaller goals within the bigger goals,
Yeah.
right? So you can keep people motivated. You want yourself and your team to not feel like everything is lost because we've not achieved the top line goal, but to really just keep people inspired and motivated, and just go back to connecting it with why people are doing the work. Why am I doing this? What's truly important to me, right? We have to go back to our why. We got to get reconnected to a purpose. And then just also remember you're playing the long game. And so, yes, we set goals. Yes, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to make this amount of revenue. But if it's not possible before the end of the year, because sometimes, we just have to be real.
Yeah.
If it's not possible, then there is next year.
Mhm.
Okay. What can we take from this year that's strategic, that's going to create a new alignment with our goals, that's going to bring us into next year? And so now we're on a better path to accomplishing these goals. So not all is lost. We learn now what created the bottleneck. Why are we in this position that we haven't accomplished what we said? Right. And so now we have a greater understanding of how we need to move forward. The strategies become clearer, we become clearer, and then that's a sort of builds its own momentum.
Mhm. There's
Yeah.
something in there you mentioned about celebration, and that is something most teams, I'll even go out on a ledge and say 80 to 90% of teams do not build in time for celebration. And it's actually sometimes it's those celebratory milestones that
Mhm.
actually make you want to hit the goal. So
Yeah.
let's think about our own goals that we've set for this year and the things that we've put in front of ourselves to do. Have we given ourselves any type of celebratory thing that we're going to do when we hit that milestone? Maybe we're going to go get a pedicure. Maybe we're going to go to the spa with a friend. Maybe we're going to, release some funds to go shopping. I don't know. Whatever you enjoy doing, do you build in milestones so that you can celebrate those key things that happen along the way? For teams, I've seen things like end of the year party if we hit our goal. I've
Mhm.
seen everybody gets iPads. Yes. If revenue goals were hit, yes, everyone gets an iPad. Like I've seen so many really cool things that we've done for teams and it's like why do we forget to celebrate the success so that we can put that in? That's part of to me, when you're talking about recording and,
Mhm.
writing down what happens, that's the most critical part of it all is and when we hit this goal, here's what happens next. And
Yeah.
that's what people get excited about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the things I like to do is just tell people, hey, if this should happen, because sometimes, the incentive has to come from them so that it has more meaning and they get more excited. You can easily say, oh, let's have a party. And somebody says, well, I'd rather have a gift card. So I've worked with people who love gift cards. And so, but it's the why. It's not just the gift card. It's what are we using it for? Oh, because, like you said, I want to get myself a new wardrobe. Hey, I want to go on this trip. Here are some things that I want to do. And so I always encourage them, just like you have a vision board, write down the award and put it right by your work area or stick it onto your mirror. And remember, that's what you're working towards. Because sometimes, honestly, when we lead teams, people tend to think, hey, I'm accomplishing the company's bigger goals, and that's it. Good for them. Hoorah for them. What's in it for me? Yes, I'm getting my paycheck, but it has to be bigger than that. So we have to help them sometimes figure out what is their part in this. Is there a promotion possibly involved? A raise possibly involved? Something long term? Um, progression to another department or transfer to another department should you get this done. Because I always tell people we can't get to our next level until we master where we are. So, this is a part of you mastering where you are. What it does, it also helps them to bring out of the box ideas. And so, we have to learn to value people and just to make sure that we're fully using them in their full capacity. Because it's not sometimes that the goal is impossible to meet. It may seem that way, but one small change, a switch can be flipped. Somebody brings a new idea. You always say, break out of the box, right? That's your thing. You say, it's like somebody comes with something so different
Yeah.
and it creates this momentum or this catalyst moment. And before you know it, you've reached the end goal. So we always have to have that anticipation and knowing that there are people around us who are equipped to really bring these ideas and innovative ideas to the table that can propel us forward even faster.
Yeah, this is so good. And something that you keep saying that I'm just gonna underline that you said is the why. What's the why behind one, why is the company doing this? And what's the why for the individual? And other companies have called it like cascading goals, right? So goals are set at the top and then those cascade down to the rest of the team. And as the leader, we have to be able to take those sets of goals and turn around and talk to the team members and say, here's how this goal that came from however many levels up, here's how it applies to you, and
Right.
here's the why for you. If you accomplish this goal, here's the outcome, here's the benefit, and we have to right size that big goal that may come down from the business to that individual who's, working on the front line or is managing the front line. We have to contextualize it for them. And oftentimes you just hear, okay, yep, those are our goals for the year. And no one ever contextualizes it for the person on the front line who's got to go execute and do it. And they definitely don't tell them the why or the
Mhm.
what's in it for them. And I love that we're talking about this because even as we think about setting up for next year, a lot of times either goals are going to come down and you may not understand why we're even doing this goal. Go ask, go push up and ask for conversations that help you understand the why so that when you turn around and talk to your team, they'll actually be able to run with that vision. If we don't know why, we can't transfer that why onto others. And again, I want to just, Jaquel, this is the area where people struggle with
Yeah.
goal setting, especially in large organizations, is it's like everyone in that executive team understands it, and then almost no one below them can articulate it or understand it.
Mhm.
If that happens in big companies, that can also happen in teams with only 10 people where, one or two people sit in a room and put the goals together and then no one else can articulate it or they don't even know the why behind what we're doing. And so this is a good point for us to pause and say if you run any type of business of any size and if you work with anybody besides just yourself, might be a good time to make sure the people working for you understand why they're doing what they're doing.
One of the most important things for me has always been, when I look at goal setting, especially this time of year where most companies are looking ahead into the next year, is really get team members involved on every single level as a part of the goal setting process. Because you'll be pleasantly surprised what they can bring to the table from the get go in looking at the big picture and in setting these goals. And sometimes, too, the goals can even be greater goals. You never know. I mean, people are equipped with so much talent, so much skill. You talk about, again, breaking out of the box, innovative ideas that they can bring to the table. And it's a disservice when companies don't do this, when maybe, C suite feels that, oh, it's just our job to set it and hand it down. But your people who are on every level, especially on the front line, they're the ones experiencing your clients every day. They're the ones experiencing all the challenges on the front line where strategies need to be developed, because once you execute, that's where everything lands. It's a trickle down effect. And so getting people involved, creates a momentum among them and they feel like, hey, we're a part of this. And so there's a certain celebration that's different that happens when they know they were a part of building that process. And now they feel like we're building something together and not just something handed down. We're more vested in this because we have a stronger why, because we were a part of it.
And that's the power of co-creation. When someone co-creates something, they feel more invested in it. I even think about my kids, sometimes I struggle to get them to eat certain things. But when we've cooked it together, all of a sudden it's so much more delicious, and there's less
Yes.
judgment on that dish if they've helped to create that dish than if I just
Right.
created it and set it in front of them and said, "Yep, this is what we're eating tonight." And it's really true in business too, right? When we've put our thumbprint on something, when we've helped to co-create it, there's more excitement around actually tackling those goals and those things that, we have to do in order to win. Um, so let's talk about alignment because sometimes we might do all the right things, and there's still a struggle with aligning all the folks to row in the same direction.
hmm Yeah, and we know when it's happening because the goals aren't being met. There is some chaos and confusion going on. The accountability's not there. Sometimes people are not sure what they're supposed to be doing, who's supposed to be doing what, or even if they're doing it right. And sometimes we don't ask the right questions as leaders. And we really need to stop and find out, get to the bottom of what's really going on and just not feel like, oh, we're just not getting there. Maybe it's time to let people go or abandon parts of the goal, when really it's stopping and evaluating your team. Evaluate the goals for sure, but evaluate your team. Are people equipped to carry out the strategies that you've assigned to them? Are they in the right roles? And so it's really getting to know the skill set and the gifts and talents of each person and to make sure that they are applied correctly based on what goals you're trying to accomplish and what strategies you've set forth. And so even collaboration is key. A part of alignment is collaboration, because you may have different tasks that require two people to be on it. You may have initially thought, hey, maybe one person could do this, but because it's multifaceted and one person sometimes technically doesn't really can ever possess all those skill sets. It was a dream of yours, but it's just not possible. So what two team members can we bring together, or even a couple, to collaborate in a certain area? But you have to know these people, your people. You have to know them. You have to know and reaffirm and reassess the values that they bring to the table, and basically even their work ethic and how they're motivated. I can assign two people to work on a task to achieve a goal, and they work differently because they're motivated by different things. It's like going back to raising children, right? You want a big goal accomplished in your home, and so you assign both to do it, but both are still going to work differently. So we have to connect with, yeah, why are you doing it? And then what's the reward? What's going to motivate you to get it done?
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that we're talking about this in light of the season we're in. And so, final thoughts for our listeners. Let's talk about the role that faith plays in all of this with the leadership philosophy here. There's plenty of books out there on goal setting and on, achieving initiatives and ensuring that we accomplish what we set out to do. But how does our faith and kind of the resilience that God's given us, how does that cause us to lead differently when we approach some of these goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Faith is the foundation of everything that I do. And it needs to be for every single believer in the marketplace, because really it's going to shape how we feel and see our impact. Because a lot of time, impact is driven by dollars and cents, by revenue goals. And so impact needs to be more focused on people, because when you can get the best out of people, those people then are motivated and are driven to accomplish the big vision together with you. And so that is even a greater investment. And to see the goals beyond themselves, like I talked about, it's playing the long game. It's not just for this year, but whatever you're doing right now, how is it going to impact this company, your business, or even your personal life 5 years down the road? And so even as you're looking at these goals, with your faith, you're seeing the failures even differently. It's always an opportunity to say, how can we grow through this to get better? And you never leave a team member behind. You never just discard the people around you because, oh, we're just not getting there. They're not giving me what I need. They're not giving me the dollars. But really, you stop and you're able to see the potential in people, the way we have conversations about, Lord, help me to see people the way you see them. Help me to see the potential that you see in them, and show me what I need to do to help them develop into becoming their very best so that they can achieve and excel. And then overall, we're all excelling. If you take a company and break it up into individuals, we talk about your the chain is as strong as its weakest link, and that always holds true. And so when you look at each team member and you say, if they're willing to make the investment as a leader, you need to make the investment. And some of it requires time. And if you stick in it and just be with this employee for the long haul, or this coworker for the long haul, it will pay dividends. It will pay true, because they're going to grow and develop. And that's the best thing you can possibly do for people, to help them to grow into their best.
Wow, that's a great way to end the segment. And I think you've given us so much to think about in the areas of setting goals, keeping our goals on track, and then how we invest in the people that are helping us to win. So thank you so much for your time today, Jacquel. This has been so wonderful.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure.
Well, follow Jacquel and head over to mypurposeonfire.com to learn more about Jacquel. She's an awesome leader and coach and someone that you need to get to know. Well, if you haven't had a chance to step into community, let me ask you a question. What are you waiting for? Head over to thrivetoday.com right now to learn more about our coaching programs and all the other things, all the other resources that you'll get access to by being a part of Thrive. Well, ladies, we will see you next time. Don't forget to thrive.